to implement, follow up, and verify compliance with internal and external rules while involving other areas. That is why Pirani is the ideal tool for your company. Through Pirani, you can centralize your compliance management by creating regulations and adding the necessary clauses for effective implementation. You can designate a compliance officer to ensure proper follow-up. In addition, Pirani's Events module allows members of your organization to report any materialization of risks from any device. You can download customized reports in PDF, PNG, or Excel with just a few clicks. As you can see, compliance management becomes simple with Pirani. Choose the best plan for your company and obtain better results by using the easiest tool. Try our tool for free and see for yourself how easy it is to use. What are you waiting for? Pirani, we make risk management simple. Information is increasingly exposed and vulnerable in a more technological and globalized world. Regardless of the sector or size of your company, you have information about customers, employees, suppliers, and processes that you must protect. Information is the most critical asset of any company. You must guarantee its confidentiality, integrity, and availability by managing all the risks associated with your processes and information assets to avoid bad practices, leaks, or attacks, such as kidnapping or data theft. With Pirani's Information Security Risk Management System, you will be able to comply with the ISO 27001 standard and quickly identify and manage processes, information assets, risks, and controls, document incidents, as well as generate action plans, view graphical reports of all your management, define indicators, and perform evaluations. What are you waiting for? Choose the best plan for your business and start managing your information security risks with the easiest to use software on the market. Try our tool for free. Pirani, we make risk management simple.
Do you need to manage money laundering risks in a simple way? Then Pirani is the perfect tool for you. With our software, you can track your processes, risks, causes, and consequences. Additionally, you can create controls, alerts, action plans, indicators, and perform evaluations. Do you want to take it to the next level? With Pirani, you can analyze risk factors, clients and counterparts, channels, products, and jurisdictions to support the process of defining transaction monitoring alerts. This will strengthen your anti-money laundering program. With Pirani, customized reports are just a few clicks away, ready to download in the format you need. Choose the best plan for your company and obtain better results by using the easiest tool. Try our tool for free and see for yourself how easy it is to use. What are you waiting for? Pirani, we make risk management simple. In an increasingly demanding business world, organizations must stay one step ahead by optimizing their audit processes, saving valuable time, and reducing the operational burden on their teams. With Pirani, you can carry out rigorous internal audits by controlling and monitoring your organization's internal norms, standards, and regulations. Easily schedule and assign audits by setting deadlines, delegating to the audit team, and defining the objectives and scope of each audit. Build customized checklists to define evaluation criteria, establish questions, and add relevant comments for each process you want to audit. Attach files directly, facilitating collecting evidence, accessing and reviewing information during audits. Additionally, establish remediation and improvement plans for identified findings. This way, you will contribute to the continuous improvement of your organization. Choose the best plan for your company and optimize your audits with the easiest to use tool. What are you waiting for? Try our tool for free. Pirani, we make risk management simple.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Risk Management School. My name is Nicolai Koser, and I'm a member of the Pirani team. I'm excited to be here with you today to explore the theoretical and practical aspect of the different topics that we will see. To help us delve into this session, we're happy to have with us Alejandro Rego, CEO at Pirani. Alejo, how are you?
Hi, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining to this new masterclass in risk management.
It will be great, I know. And before we begin, I would love to invite everyone to continue learning about the world of risk management by visiting the Pirani Academy, where you will find valuable learning materials. I will leave the link in the chat now so you can see our website. There you go. And remember, if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to make them through the question and answer section, and we will be happy to answer them at the end of this webinar. Now, let's begin with this exciting topic. Over to you, Alejo.
Okay. Well, as you saw in the invitation, today we're going to talk about how to identify emerging risks. So you also can, if you after this class you want to book a meeting with me to talk about or to dig into this concept or to show you how we can do this in Pirani, you can scan the QR and also you can book a meeting with me if you want to. But let's start with the class. Remember that the first 20 minutes is the theory of the topic that we're going to address, and the second half will be a practical part in the Pirani software. And of course, if you have questions, we have 10 minutes or at the end of the session. As Nicole mentioned, you can also visit the Pirani Academy. We have plenty of content, blog posts, the recording of the webinars, ebooks, specials. So all this content is completely free. So you can visit. Nicole put the link in the chat. And actually, the last ebook that is published in the Pirani Academy is about the topic that we're gonna discuss today of emergent risks. What are they and how to manage them? It's not very long. It's like 10 pages. It's a PDF, so you can also download that. And some of the information that we're gonna share with you today is actually in that ebook. And remember that after this class, we're gonna share with you guys the recording and the presentation that we're going to show you. So if you want to take note, or you can wait and receive the PDF of the presentation and the recording of this session as well. So let's start now. Again, we're going to talk to how to identify emerging risks. It's a very interesting topic. In the previous classes, we talk about risks, and the risk management cycle and the risk management process. So let's remember what are the definitions that we work with. This is the definition of the ISO 21000 that I like the most. That the normal risk, right? That risk is defined as the effect of uncertainty on objectives. This means that risk is the possibility of an event or situation occurring that could have an impact on the achievement of an organization goals and objectives. And we usually, and most of the companies that we work with, they run this risk management process or this risk management cycle when we identify the context and identify the risks that they may be exposed, then they make the risk evaluation, the risk treatment, monitor and report, and continuous improvement. This is the ideal risk management cycle. But unfortunately, some companies declare the risks that they can be exposed to once in a year, and they just run the process, they evaluate the risks, they make the risk treatment, and that's it. And unfortunately, some of them they don't run the actual cycle that because the context is changing, the world is changing, the industry is changing. So you need to identify those emergent risks every time that happen. So we want to discuss how can we do that. This is actually a cycle and not just declare the risks of the company. And again, I have seen cases of companies that have 100 risks that they listed, in a lifetime, and then they work with us. Maybe one risk per new risks per year, or and how can we actually give life to this cycle? So again, in this class, remember we only have 20 minutes of theory, so there's plenty of interesting theories of there and frameworks, but we want to work with the ISO, that the standards that apply, I think, globally. And the ISO 31000 is the risk management guidelines. The first publication was in 2009, and the last upgrade was in 2018. This is the last upgrade of the norm. So the primary objective of the ISO 31000 is to assist organizations in making informed decisions regarding risk by providing a framework that supports the integration of risk management into the overall governance, strategy, and operation of the organization. But as you can see, is a little far away from 2018, and we all maybe agree that the world have changed a lot since 2018. So how can we talk about emerging risks if the last guidelines came from 2018? So the good news is last year, the ISO, oh, no. Spoil. I want to talk about the ISO 31000. So what are the components of the ISO 31000? Again, this class is not going to be about this specific ISO, but this just to give you the context. It has principles, frameworks, process, communication and consultation, monitoring and review, and they have these graphics, a diagram that explain a little bit more how can the risk management should be in those organizations. This close takes the figure is a little bit of the resume of the whole idea of the ISO. But again, this is from 2018. So how can we talk about emerging risks? So the good news is last year, ISO released the ISO 31050. Again, this is released in 2023, and it's about emerging risks. And the name, I love the name, is Risk Management Guidelines for Managing an Emerging Risks to Enhance Resilience. And this is a new concept in risk management that we're gonna talk about, of resilience at the end of the theory part. So what are new in these guidelines, or what are the recommendations or the concepts that we need to address in this new guidelines and version of the ISO? Remember, the ISO 31050, you can buy it online. This is the link if you want to buy it or you want to consult it deeply. So we're going to share some highlights of this new ISO. So the first is the definition of what are emerging risks. So emerging risks are characterized by their newness, insufficient data, and a lack of verifiable information and knowledge needed for decision-making related to them. Again, it's not just the risks that I haven't listed in my methodology or in my tool or in my software. The concept of emerging risks, again, is newness and insufficient data. Remember that. As these risks can develop with the potential for large threats and opportunities, appropriate management of emerging risks should be established as a part of an organization risk management. It should include changes in circumstances or condition related to multiple aspects of the organization, external context, and the implication for its internal context. So, emergent risks can include, for example, risks arising from unrecognized changes in organizational context. So here, remember context, the keyword context, sorry. Two, risks created by innovation or social and technological development. Three, risks related to new sources or previously unrecognized sources of risk. And fourth, risks from new or modified processes, products, or services. So look that in the last one, in the fourth, is not from external sources, but from within. From maybe in the last year you changed something in your process or in your product or in your service that may have an emergent risk. So this is the definition again from ISO 21050. And what are the consequences of emerging risks? Can include, for example, exposure to unforeseen hazards and threats with certain outcomes, increased exposure to hazards and threats from known risk sources, and loss or gain opportunities. And once again, look the opportunity concept and keyword in this. So to put it a little bit more simple, so can we put that? What are the characteristics of the emergent risks? One, are unpredictable. Although there may be known risks, for example, a terrorist act, a pandemic, or other natural disaster, it is not known exactly when, where, or how they will occur. Right. Two, uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of the main characteristics of this risk because in addition of not knowing if and when they will occur, it is not known what their real impact will be, how much damage they might cause to aspects such as operation liquidity. Because again, sometimes we work with the usual suspects. We know that, okay, maybe when we're gonna make the risk evaluation, I know that in this company that happened, or in the company that I worked before that happened. So I have information to do the risk evaluation and put, okay, I don't know, will be medium or critical or unlikely. But a characteristic of these emerging risks is we don't know, we don't have enough information even to do a correct risk evaluation. Of course, they are complex and changing. They evolve rapidly and generate impacts in different areas of companies, as well as in people's lives and government's development. And this is very important, they emerge from global trends. Whether political, economical, social, environmental, technological, it is key to monitor these trends to identify those risks that could arise and have a high impact. So, what are those emerging risks examples? What are the sources of the categories that we can identify those emerging risks? So, the technological risks, such as cybersecurity threats, data breaches, disruptive technologies. Okay, basically the same categories of traditional risks. Environmental risks, social risks, regulatory risks, economic risks. So we're gonna dig into in this, the next the slides. So how to identify what are the, based on these definitions of the ISO or the definitions that we want to work with, how to identify those emerging risks. So I'm gonna give you basically two tips or two tools. So let's go back here. Remember that emerge from global trends. So you don't have to invent the wheel. You need to connect with the context, with the world, basically. So one interesting source of information that is actually completely free, because Unfortunately, if you want to consult the ISO 21050, you need to buy it, right? So maybe some of the companies don't want to do this right now. But this global risks report is from the World Economic Forum. It's completely free. I put it in the. I don't know, Nico, if you can help us put this link in the chat as well. You can download this report for free, and it's gonna. We're not gonna dig into this global report in this massive class. I will encourage you to see and buy it yourself. But I think this is a very interesting direction or trend that we can talk. This is the global risk ranked by severity over the short and long term. So basically, this the World Economic Forum has a lot of entities and people involved in the risks area globally. What are the risks that they think they may be exposed to in the next 2 years or in the next 10 years? And first, look at categories. And remember that what are the sources, what are the categories of the risks? So we have 5: economic, environmental, geopolitical, societal, and technological. So look how it changes in time. For instance, in the next 2 years, this global report awares about the first risks will be misinformation and disinformation as a technological risks. Okay, so maybe how can I translate that risk into my specific company, into my specific industry? Or the second, extreme weather event. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of years that we're talking about climate change. Do we have any risks of those and of that category in our risk heat map or in risk matrix in our companies? Do we know how can translate that trend into our company? Cyber insecurity, I think we have. I think for sure I hope that all these companies have this cyber security in our risk matrix. But look how it changes in 10 years. Again, this is the perception of these interview people. So look how the different categories in the next 2 years and basically in the next 10 years, how the environmental will pass from 2 risks in the top 10 to 5, right? But look for in the next 2 years, this interstate armed conflict. Some people think that in this century, this will be over, that this is something for the 20th century, and it is not. Today, unfortunately, we're facing 2 big conflicts globally. So this emerged as a new risk for the next few years. So again, this is just a source of information that can give you an idea of what categories can you address, and at least to make the questions, okay, how can my company are addressing or are connecting with this global risks, right? Because again, you don't have to invent the wheel. But let's go back to the risk management cycle. Remember that the first step is identify the context of your company, and then the risk identification. And sometimes we just run to put risk. I think this risk, this is the usual suspects. But how are you connecting with the context of your company every month, every quarter, every semester? Because again, the world is changing, the times are changing, and the world in 2020 is definitely not the same that in 2024. So if you do this, so even forget the new ISO of last year, are you actually connecting with the context of your company every once in a while to identify those risks in a cycle? So a good way to do this, the second tip I recommend is the PESTEL framework or the PESTEL analysis. The PESTEL framework is a tool used in strategic analysis to assess and understand the external macro environmental factors that may impact an organization or its industry. PESTEL is an acronym that stands for political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. Each of these factors represent a category of external influences, that can affect the operations, performance, and strategies of a business. By analyzing these 6 categories of external factors using the PESTEL framework, organization can gain insights into the opportunities and threats. This is basically that our teams need to do, not only the risk management team, the whole company need to gain insights about the context of your company to understand what can you do to do a better risk management, to do a better business strategy, to do a better growth. I'm not gonna give, again, we're gonna share with you this presentation, so I'm gonna dig into the specific definition of every factor. But again, the political will be referred to this influence of government policies, regulation, stability, and political trends on businesses. Are you aware of all the political factors that affect your industry this year? Do you know what regulations will impact your business this new year? Do you aware of what laws are your Congress people are discussing right now in your country? Economic factors encompass the broader economic conditions that may impact businesses, including economic growth, inflation rates, exchange rates, interest rates, unemployment rates, and customer confidence. Are we connecting with this factor? Are we aware of what we can emerge for our company? Social factors, societal trends, cultural norms, demographics, lifestyle changes, and customer preferences. After pandemic, after 2020, this is huge for every company, for every industry. The cultural norms, the way that the society works completely change. Are we aware of that? Are we putting those risks into our risk matrix, into our company? Technological factors. I think this is the most discussed. We used to talk about this. But technological factors relate to advancements in technology, innovation, research, development, in the rate of technological change. I'm gonna give you just one example. AI, artificial intelligence. We put the artificial intelligence innovations in our risk dashboards. How can AI can affect our company in the long term or in the short term? Environmental factors encompass ecological and environmental considerations, including sustainability, climate change, natural disasters, resource scarcity, and environmental regulations. This is huge. Again, after pandemic, with all the conversation about climate change, there's a lot of laws and regulation are discussing right now with every country about this. Or even it's not a regulation, this is a responsibility of every industry to be aware of these environmental factors. Of course, one more than the others. If you are a manufacturing company, if you are maybe a retail company, you have a bigger responsibility, but I think everyone needs to do something about it. And of course, the legal factors. refers to laws, regulation, and legal frameworks that govern business operations, industry standards, and corporate governance. And I think some of us are aware of these, so I'm going to deep into what are the conclusions? What can we do? So, in resume, emerging risks are potential threats or hazards that are not currently recognized or fully understood, but have the potential to significantly impact an organization's objectives or operation in the future, the near future. These risks often arise from new or unexpected sources, such as technological advancements, changes in regulation or legislation, shifts in social or environmental trends, and geopolitical events. Emerging risks may not have a history of occurrence. And this is something that the blocker for risk managers. So no, I don't want to put that risk because I don't know how to evaluate that risk. So what can we put in my risk heat map if I don't even know what to put in impact of livelihood? How can I put the AI risk in my risk heat map if I don't know what's going to happen? That's the point, right? Or may be difficult to predict using traditional risk assessment methods. They require ongoing monitoring and assessment to identify and understand their potential impact, likelihood of occurrence, and the effectiveness of existing risk management strategies. So, for instance, the ISO 31050 give us an idea of what can we do with these emerging risks in the whole process. So, first, undertake regular and comprehensive scanning of the context. Again, the first step is understand the context of your company. Not every company has the same context. Maybe the global trends and the global context maybe is the same, but it affects your company and your industry in different ways. You are more susceptible to for one or the others. Okay, so second, seek to identify emerging risks at a strategic level and throughout the organization whenever the risk management process is applied. Risks of particular significance to individual projects or departments can be less visible or less likely to be considered during higher level strategic thinking. Analyze trends. Again, maybe you want to work with the free global risk report, or maybe your industry have reports of trends. Maybe you work in the fashion industry, the financial industry. There's plenty of report of every industry. Try to connect with that. That can eventually lead to new risks. Describe sources of risk and possible scenarios of interest associated with the above. Actively seek scenarios with positive as well as negative outcomes. This is a good practice in business continuity, good practices, but how can we translate this into the normal risk management practices or framework? Explore interconnected risks and context. Identify indicators for emerging risks that will provide an early warning of imminent consequences or new opportunities and threats that are emerging, and monitor these indicators. Unfortunately, some companies don't have any key risk indicator of key performance indicator linked with the operations of the risk management of the company, or of key control indicators. So the best way, again, to gain insights and information is collecting data. And a good way to do this is working with indicators. And again, continually monitor data. This is the main idea. So that description of risks can be updated as the latest information is obtained. And actually, this ISO 31050 talk about the concept of risk intelligence cycle that basically says continual scanning to collect, analyze, and interpret data. You need the knowledge, you need the expertise of what's going on in your company. Second, considering that data of emerging risks gathered under such change of circumstances are limited in quality and quantity, and their need for urgent interpretation often leads to increasing ambiguity for available information. Considering data about other relevant known risks and associating the criticality of intelligence to effective decision making due to the limitation of available data and information of emergent risks. So remember that in the original ISO, let me go back to the graphic. So in the ISO 31000, the whole idea of the risk management process looked like this. The process clause 6. So scope, context, criteria, risk assessment, risk identification, analysis, evaluation, risk treatment, all framed in monitoring and review and communicational consultation and recording and reporting. So in this new ISO of emerging risks, they add a new idea in this graphic. It looks a little bit complex. I don't want to deep into, but look that they add this risk intelligence cycle beneath the frame that basically is talking about data, the suitable quantity and quality to qualify of raw data information about context. Do you have it? You don't have it? Multiple contexts, continual environmental scanning, and do you have the knowledge and put into the risk analysis? So this is an invitation of not look this complex graphic yet, but connect with the context of your company, gather information, collect information and data that may be relevant for you, and translate that into your risk identification and analysis. But the whole idea of this emerging risk concept that I want you to take is basically we changing the approach and the fundamentals, because usually we were, remember that the name of the ISO is emerging risks to enhance resilience, because we are used to work with business continuity. And the business continuity refers to the ability of an organization to maintain essential functions and operation during and after a disruptive event. Is for some, the concept of risk management is protective to survive. That's not enough in the risk management. The new CEOs of company don't see value in that. So the mindset that we need to change is that we need to do risk management, and we need to address the emerging risks to business resilience. That again is not just the protective concept to survive. The business resilience goes beyond continuity and focuses on the organization's ability to adapt, recover, and thrive in the face of adversity. It encompasses not only the ability to respond effectively to disruptive events, but also the capacity to anticipate, prevent, and mitigate risks, as well as the capability to innovate, learn, and evolve in a dynamic and uncertain business environment. Business resilience involves building a culture of resilience, fostering flexibility, agility, and creativity, and integrating risk management into strategic decision-making processes to enhance the organization's ability to withstand and recover from disruptions and achieve long-term success. Again, it's not just survive, it's to thrive. And this is the main concept and the idea of managing emerging risks. So, some actions are, I know we talk about a lot of concepts, but what we need to, what can we do, what can we start doing right now? One, constantly monitor and evaluate the internal and external environment of the organization and be updated on global trends, as well as existing and possible conditions of change. Two, have a deep knowledge of the industry and the market, including the entire supply chain for the production and operation of the company. 3, consider and review list of emerging risks presented by industry experts that exist. Validate which risks are relevant to the organization. 4, think and discuss the different areas, not only risk management. Which events with low likelihood of occurrence but with high impact could affect the operation and the continuity of the company? 5, perform analysis of possible scenarios to identify threats that could materialize and generate impacts and processes of assets. So look at this idea. I don't put the slide, but the concept of the 3 lines or the 5 lines of defense, this is not a work of the risk management department, because usually the risk management department is very connected for the risk, but who are more connected with the context of every process? Who knows better the technological process and trends than the technology team? Who knows better the human and the talent acquisition trends and risks that the human resources of people management team? So we need that this business resilience is a overall culture in the company in order to identify those emerging risks. I think, unfortunately, that the risk manager or the VP of risk doesn't have the whole information to do this. He needs to connect with every team. He needs to connect with the concept, with the context. So let's forget about the new methodology or the new framework or even the new ISO. Is just to reconnect with the idea that risk management is a cycle. The risk identification that you did last year need to be upgraded, need to be updated, because the world is changing and you need to do that as a cycle. Even if you go with this definition by Pirani, with this framework by the ISO, and this plenty of framework, the Q for COSO ERM, risk management is a cycle. I don't know if you know, but basically that's why this Pirani logo is about. Risk management is a cycle. So this is the main invitation. So before to make the practical aspect of the class in the software, we also want to give you an example of this risk. I name it the risk workflow, to try to understand before the software, how can we connect this emerging, this special analysis or these global risk trends with my company. So let's talk about these broad concepts. So I suggest that you can start with the pistol analysis. Okay, what are the political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors? These factors represent external influences that can affect a company's operations. So you can start with that. Now we're gonna name it factor or source. And then we can try to identify the risks on that specific factor. And remember, based on your methodology or your framework that are you using, you can understand the risk as a whole, or you can divide it into cause, the risks, and the consequence. So what will be the cause of this risk for happening, and what will be the consequence? Again, some companies do these 3 scenarios are the same. That's up to you. I'm not gonna dig into today, but just taking in consideration the 3 stages of the risk. And because maybe you say, okay, but should I put every factor in my risk matrix? I'm responsible for these factors? So the thing that we suggest is, no, you are responsible for the processes of your company. So you know that these factors that we can say are the source of the cause of the risks, will be impact the processes of your company in the operational risk management context. So risk can affect the company's processes. So you understand the source, you understand the factors, then you identify a risk that can affect a process of your company, and then remember that the framework or the idea is collect data. So maybe you're gonna identify a risk. Maybe you need to put a starting evaluation that again maybe won't be the best evaluation, the best rating in the world. Maybe you put, okay, likelihood will be unlikely, and the impact will be, I don't know, medium, because I don't know what can actually happen with that risk. But that's not the most important thing to start with. Maybe you put a provisional rating to begin with, but then you need to track the events in your company. That remember, the events are the materialization of the risk, and then you need to collect the data of that risk. Maybe you put a risk that never happened, and that's fine. Based on that information, maybe you put, okay, the likelihood with very unlikely, and you live there. But or maybe it start happening, maybe once in a month, maybe once in a week, and then you have information for your company that I'm sure is completely different from another company in the next street. So start collecting information of the events of the risks to change the likelihood, because remember, that's why this is a risk management process. This is a risk management cycle. Maybe to begin in the risk evaluation, you put, okay, this is unlikely, and the impact will be minor. But when you do the monitor and report, you say, oh no, this event actually is happening every week, or every month, so maybe it's not unlikely. So maybe we need to re-evaluate and put it in very likely based on the information that you have. This is why it's so important, the event report. We have a class of event report. We talk about the whole idea of event report in the whole master class. You can also take a look on that class in the academy. So we're going to go back. And with the information of the events, you can make a risk treatment if you want to, and create a control to mitigate that risk. And again, with all the information of those controls, if it's preventive, corrective, detective, if the residual risk change, you will also have data to do this. So this risk workflow, it seems a little bit broad. So I also think in the one of the questions in the question and answer from Joaquim is, can you say on other environmental factors? So let me try to answer this question in this with that I prepare for you. So remember, this is the risk workflow. So we're gonna translate this workflow into a specific example from the pestle analysis, from environmental. So my company is concerned, or maybe you want to address all 6 factors or sources, but let's do an example of environmental. Okay, we can all agree that the main trend, the main topic of conversation on environmental factors can be climate change. So we can say the factor will be the environmental or the source, and the cause of the risk will be climate change, right? But again, I saw some companies put, okay, climate change will be the risk. And this is so broad. I mean, what can you do with the risk of climate change? So you need to deep into this broad concept. Because remember, this is just the cause, this is the factor, the source. So what actually is the risk? So we can translate, okay, climate change can be translated into a specific risk for my company that increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events. This is more, you can do more with this declaration, with this definition, well, with this definition. Remember, this is the cause, this is the factor, this is the source. The risk will be this. But again, how can I rate this risk with this reduction, with this writing? You need to list the consequence. But maybe this specific definition of the risk will have not one, but 2 or 3 or 10 consequences, different consequences. So some companies may evolve that every consequence will be a specific risk. So what will be the consequences of increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events? Maybe one is damage to infrastructure. Another one, completely different, is supply chain disruptions. So maybe your company wants to address every consequence as a different risk. Or maybe you suffer or you matrix address the cause, risk, and consequence. It's up to you. I don't want to give you the best recipe. But look how we are translating the factor into an actual risk. Parenthesis, remember that one of the best, let's go back here, the risk analysis before the evaluation. My favorite risk analysis tool is the 5 whys. And basically we're doing this example backwards. Because remember that when you declare a risk, okay, as you sell 5 times, why that happening? So look at this, why the supply chain disruption could happen? Oh, because of increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events. Why? Because climate change. Why? Because environmental factors. So look that we have 4 steps in the 5 whys process. So it's basically doing backwards. And again, we can have more examples of these in this specific factor. So look that today we have 2. So what's next? Remember the event. Okay, we list in our risk heat map the damage to infrastructure. What event we can track for this specific consequence? A flood because of storm on February 20th. The loss was $1,500. And this is a specific event, and maybe you track another flood on March 9th, and another event happened, and another event, and then you have the event report of these specific risks happening, and you will have the information of likelihood after the event. Because, and what impact has this in your company? Of course, in production and distribution. So this specific risk can affect the production process or the distribution process. For example, a manufacturing plant located in the coastal area may be at risk of flooding or storm damage during hurricanes, resulting in production disruption and repair costs. So after I identify this specific event connected with process and distribution or production, we can implement and control that. Okay, maybe I want to create a control to mitigate this risk. So alarm before storms, this is will preventive, or waterproof barrier also will be preventive. So then you have the workflow of the specific environmental factor for emergent risks. And we need to start, we can start doing this right now. Let me give you another example in another factor that is the social that we discussed after. A broad concept as demographic shifts aging population. This is a trend. This will be the factor, the source, or the cause. What are the risks and specific risks? Remember, one source, one factor can have multiple risks. So we're gonna just have one example of one risk that can emerge from this factor. Changes in consumer behavior. This is a risk. Again, this is a very broad risk. What will be the consequence? Aging population may have different consumption patterns and preferences compared to younger demographics. Less consumption of a product or service. What can be the event that we actually track this from happening? Sales of X product service dropped by 30% compared to the previous month. This is the evidence. This is what actually happened to the company, and you can track. You can say it as an indicator of an event. That's up to you, but you connect what's happening in your company with the trend of aging population and a service of your company. So this will affect the production or the distribution. Okay, what can we do for this product? So what can control we can implement to mitigate this? So maybe adapt marketing strategies and product offerings and distribution channels to cater to the needs and preferences of older consumers, or creating a new one, a new product for a younger audiences, right? Another example, the economic factor will be the source of the cause will be economic recession. The risk will be declining consumer spending and business investments. So the consequences can be declining business investment. 75% of reduction in research and development budget in the current period. So the event can be the purchase of the Hotjar customer journey tracking tool is canceled. So this can affect industries such as manufacturing, construction, and technology, where investment in equipment, facilities, and research and development is essential for growth and innovation. For instance, companies may postpone investment in new production facilities or technology upgrades until economic conditions improve. This affects the production process. So look that we are talking about resilience. What control can we create for this? So the risk management is not only talking about protective, survive, comply the regulation. The risk management evolved to help the company to thrive, to grow. This is the main idea that we want to share with you about the risk management, the emergent risk in risk management. So, oh my God, we only have 6 minutes. I was very excited to talking about this. We don't have talk to questions, but let me show you a little bit how can we translate the first example into a risk management software like Pirani. So in Pirani, remember, you let's go back to the process, the risk workflow. It's important that you to track the risks and the processes, the controls, the events, all the information that you need to address to understand the risks. So we have the dashboard, maybe the processes, we have tracked the production, the distribution, the sales, the human risk, whatever process you need to track in Pirani. So you please have that information into the software, but we're gonna dip into the risk. So remember the example of the environmental. We have the risk is increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events. So in Pirani, we create the risk. That would be the name of the risk. Increased frequency and severity of extreme weathers. We're gonna have the evaluation that maybe, I think that maybe the impact will be serious. And the likelihood, no, to begin with me, unlikely. I don't know, to begin with. This is my first evaluation. I can put the description. I can put, okay, the risk treatment we want to mitigate to begin with, or maybe we're going to transfer if you're going to hire our insurance company. It's not important yet. And I can also associate with causes and consequences to understand, okay, so I create a cause, the climate change, and a consequence, the damage to infrastructure. So I can create another consequence like the supply chain disruption. So I can also associate with another causes and consequences. So we're going to create consequences of supply chain disruption. So supply chain disruption. This is a consequences. The category will be operational. We can put the description, or we can associate this supply with the specific risk of increased frequency and severity event. And we create. So we can create as many causes and consequences as we like. If you don't want to use the causes and consequences, you can just put all the information into the risks, that you can track into. Maybe you can create, okay, increased frequency and severity of extreme weather may cause these specific things, or put it in description. Again, just need to collect the information in order to have better understanding of the risks. And maybe you can also add more information here in Pirani to collect more information. So we can do this in the custom fields. So we can go to the ORMM fields and create, okay, for this specific risks, how can we add, for example, we are asking for the risk treatment, but we can add a new for pestle analysis or pestle source. And we're gonna put the single selection menu, and the option will be political and economic, social. Oh, let's just start. So this will be required, and we're gonna publish. And then we go to the risk dashboard to track this information. You need a system that helps you to track this information. So now we're gonna go to the risk, and we're gonna put pestle source will be environmental, and save changes. And then we can go and filter. Okay, let me check what is. Show me all the risks that I have from environmental sources. And you're gonna have a lot of information about every data, and you can see, okay, my company is more sensitive to the environmental factor, or the social, or the technological. And this is basically the idea. This is now, we have 1 hour of the masterclass. So thank you very much for joining to this masterclass about emerging risks. Remember, we're gonna share with you guys the presentation in PDF and the recording, and you can consult in Pirani Academy. Sorry that I cannot answer the questions because we're running out of time, but you can send the question to my email, or you can book a meeting with me as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining this webinar and masterclass of emerging risks.
Thank you very much, Alejandro, for your excellent participation in this webinar. Finally, I would love to invite everyone to continue learning and participate in a short survey that will appear when the meeting ends. This will help us to continue improving our webinars. Thank you so much for your participation, and see you soon.